my name is Valnety and I've been journaling for quite some time now. At some point, however, buying new notebooks every month became quite expensive and I decided that I might just as well put time into it, not money. And with that I took to Pinterest, which means I take no credit for this method I'm about to show you, even though I have altered it for my own specific needs. So here's how I make my own notebooks. You will need glue, scissors, paper, and needle and thread. So first you want to take the paper. It can be just any ordinary paper, and you want to fold it both ways so it's easier for later, and then you want to repeat this for as many papers as you want, but it would be great if the number of papers you have is divisible by 3. And this is a great project to do while, for example, watching YouTube or a movie or the TV, as it doesn't really require much thinking. Next you want to take the papers and measure the places for the holes. I do it so that it's 0.5 centimeter from both sides, and then the holes are with 4 centimeter gaps. Step 3 is to poke holes in the marked places, and I use, for example, the end of a paper clip. Step 4 is probably the hardest part, which is sewing, and you have to gather the papers into volumes of 3, and I start outside and then you put it in and you bring it out, and then you go on to the next paper and you put it in and you bring it out, and then you come back to your paper and then you go back and forth, which means the edges get done twice and all of the inside of the volume is filled with thread. These past 3 steps, being measuring, poking, and sewing, are the easiest to mess up, and the things I suggest to look out for is sewing too loosely and not tightening it, or sewing through the wrong hole, or just be very careful in general with the measuring because you want them to line up later. And when you're done with the majority of the sewing, you still have leftover thread, what I suggest is that you don't cut it off right away, but you just sort of make a ladder down the edges, which means you, instead of going back and forth between 2 volumes, you just go down or up a volume each time you take the needle out, and then it just kind of bounce from the edges. Step 5 is gluing. You want heavier books and paper. Don't glue the spine if you're not surrounding it with paper, because you might ruin the books you're using. And you want to leave that sit for a night or 2 even. It depends on how big your notebook is and how much glue you put on the spine. But that's also something that I find very comfortable with this method, is that you can make the notebook exactly the size as you want it and don't have to settle for anything that you get from the store, which may not be to your liking. And step 6 is finishing touches. I take 3 pages from the front and the back and I glue them together to make the front and back covers stronger, and then it's time for cover design. If you want to just sew, or you want stickers, or you want nothing, or if you want to put fabric on it, as I did. After that, you're finished and you have just made a notebook. If you use this video as a guide to make a notebook for yourself, I would very much like to see it or hear how it goes. And one way to let me know is through the comments on this YouTube video. But the other is to, for example, make an Instagram story and tag me. The ad is on the screen. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay creative.